back after a week off. Short Track Radio Podcast, back for episode, what are we on now? 8 or something like that?
I don't even know.
Well, look at the Instagram.
Yeah.
Figure it out yourselves. Today's guest is Brandon French, driver of the FR2 Motorsports wilroc non-wing sprint car. Brandon, thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Excited.
No problem. And Brandon, our favorite guest so far, he brought beer.
You know, I should be the one bringing the beer because we are sponsored by a beer service. But thanks.
Yeah, hey.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Yeah, let's go right into it. Maybe I have to drive actually, but I'll join in the cheers. But let's start off maybe recapping last race at Western. Obviously, you brought out new to you car. Guy Barrett sold Lejeune chassis, and things went pretty well in qualifying and in the heat race. But you've got some fresh tires for the next event coming up here.
Yeah, it didn't go as well as we planned, but the car was really good right from the get-go. First practice out, we didn't get to do a ton of laps, but Guy helped with the setup when we bought the car from him, and it was fast. I mean, we were first out to qualify and pretty much hung at the top of the board until Greg Sagmoen beat me by 6 100ths or something like that. But first night out, second fastest, pretty good, and then had a good strong run in the Trophy Dash and the heat race. And first lap in the main, ended up running over Greg's right front tire, or left front tire, on my right rear. And when I landed, the car was airborne, and when I landed, the throttle was stuck right to the floor, so I had to, it was a little crazy, had to shut the car off.
That's not ideal.
No, I've been there before in practice and ended up in the blackberry bushes. I didn't want to do that again. So I shut the car off and pulled back into the pits and managed to get it unstuck and then got pushed off again. Did one more lap and it kept sticking on, so I decided for obvious reasons to shut her down for the night. And
don't risk it.
Yeah, keep the car in one piece.
Yeah, it looks good too. It's a nice looking car you got.
Yeah, thanks.
We
We
went away from the blue, back to the white.
Yeah, and the blue, we bought that car out of Boise. And it was in such nice shape, to put in the time and redo the whole thing.
Yeah.
We just left it the way it was and did some graphics to sort of suit it. But I've always been a fan of white race cars.
Yeah, it definitely looks good.
They seem to stand out. We went back to that and tried something a little different with the gold, and I think it was pretty well received.
Yeah, so what kind of necessitated the move to the other car and selling the blue car from last year?
It was a good car, but it really needs to be a wing car. With the motors we run in wilroc, it's a challenge keeping them cool. That one had a real low front end, not a lot of air getting to the motor. And me, I'm not exactly a small guy.
Yeah.
So that car, my knees were crammed into the steering box, and with the Lejeune car, I got a few more inches of room. And it's been run as a non-wing car and a wing car, so had a lot of newer equipment on it. So it was, I think it was a good move. We're happy with it so far.
It's fast car always too. So that's you're getting a good ride. Yeah,
and Guy's been really good. He's really detailed with setup. He always does his own stuff, and he was good enough to help us out with that and point us in the right direction. So hopefully the rest of the season goes a little better than the first race, but anything can happen.
Yeah, definitely. Maybe talk about how you kind of got involved in racing. You kind of, I think, came along a little later on in life to actually get behind the wheel, but your dad obviously was involved in NASCAR in the Winston West Series back in the day.
Yeah, pretty much like everybody that's been on the podcast so far, I was kind of born into it. My dad ran Western Speedway. He won at least one stock car championship back in the 80s when they used to have, B mains for stock cars. And then I was still pretty young, but he, transitioned into running Winston West, and that was back when it was a pretty big deal. You get some of the Cup drivers that would come out, and I remember going to Monroe Evergreen Speedway there for I think it was the Motorcraft 500, and they would actually run 500 laps, and it was always in the middle of the summer, and it was hot. Lots of guys would have backup drivers in the pits. And it was cool. Like I was only about 7 years old when I think he ran the last race there. But I got to meet guys like Bill Elliott and Sterling Marlin, Chad Little.
That's pretty cool.
It was a pretty cool experience. And then after that, I remember. I think the last race I remember him running at Western was he ran Rob Scott's Old Timer once. Rob couldn't make the race or something like that, and he ended up winning that main event. And then between then until I started racing myself, I could probably count on one hand how many times I was actually at the racetrack.
Yeah, that same thing happened with our dad. As soon as he was done, it was just like, if I go back there, I'm gonna buy another car. So he was like, we probably from 94 to 2001 when he built his Sportsman, we didn't go to the track.
Yeah, and for me it was sort of the same situation, but once I was old enough out of high school and stuff like that, and friends of mine like Wade Bland, Brandon Carlson were getting into it, 17, 18 years old. And I kind of avoided it because, financially I couldn't afford to do it. But if I did go and watch, I was almost down on myself because I couldn't do it, and I desperately wanted to do it. So, I tried to almost avoid going.
Yeah.
So it kind of came about as kind of a financial thing where you finally got the funds to actually do it properly, and then how did the dwarf car deal come about?
Well, I guess it was about end of 2010 season, 2011 season, my uncle actually got a wilroc car, and he and my dad and a couple other guys worked on it, and he ran it, and he had not a ton of success, but he had fun, and it was good. I, again, sort of didn't go out too much. I at this point, I regret not being there to, crew and help out and stuff, but I was doing different stuff. We did a lot of boating. I had like an offshore go fast boat, and if anybody thinks racing is expensive, they should get one of those because 5 gallons of race fuel in a weekend isn't bad when you can burn $400 in a day in one of those things. But that was fun, and it's a good adrenaline rush. But after, I think it was a year after Ron, my uncle there, he got rid of the car, which it's actually Mike Haslam's wilroc car now. I became, mutually got to know Chris Root, and he was running wilroc with the old Scotty Tipkey Roadster there. And he had the thing torn right apart and was sort of looking for some help on that. So became friends with him, and we had planned on running the full season at Western. He wasn't going to go up to Saratoga. But so I helped him rebuild that car, and I think the first race that season was a rain out, and then the next race I wasn't able to make it. I was away somewhere, and he had rad hose blow off and ended up in the wall pretty hard, broke some ribs and stuff like that. So he ended up not really running any races that season. I think we finally got the car fixed, and he might have run the Daffodil Cup weekend, and that was it. So that was sort of my first experience being a crew guy and actually working on the cars. And after that, I said, I got to do this now. Yeah. So we, I think it was championship night that year, would have been 2014, and my brother, he lives up in Fort St. John. He had his whole family down here with my nephews, and my sister lives here, and everybody came. We were just like, let's go out to Western, we'll watch the races and stuff like that. And it was actually my brother-in-law, Aaron. We were watching dwarf cars, and there was a couple of them with for sale signs on it and stuff like that. And he said we should get one of those. and I was thinking I knew nothing about them, and yeah, they're pretty quick. They look tiny. I don't know how the hell I'm going to fit in one.
Yeah, I was going to say.
But he was sort of into it, so we found the car that I ended up with, and we split it and tore it right down to the bare chassis over the winter and rebuilt it all, and we were actually, the first season we were going to share the ride, and then my nieces, they're huge into competitive softball, so he just got way too busy with coaching and stuff like that, and he took it out at a couple practices, and he sort of realized it wasn't for him.
Yeah, fair.
So I ended up driving the whole season. I think my dad filled in a couple times, races that I couldn't make it to. But that's sort of how it came about, and we were pretty much competitive right away, which is nice. But
can you talk about the maybe some of the similarities and the big differences between the two, like wilroc and dwarf car?
Yeah, it's driving is pretty similar. The dwarf is definitely more forgiving. It's actually a bit of a twitchier car just because they are so small, but they don't have the power.
Acceleration on the
corner, like if you get loose coming out of the corner, it doesn't have the power to recover from it. It's more like a go-kart where you got to be really smooth. The tires on those things, you could run a set of tires all year. That was a big learning curve for me last year with wilroc, is running on actual racing slicks and feeling how they will go away in a 35 lap race.
Yeah.
That's huge. That was an eye opener. But yeah, I mean the dwarfs are great. I love racing them. It was fun. I wouldn't call it a beginner's class.
No,
I mean I was, as far as driving, but I had been around. I sort of knew how everything worked. I knew what line was the fastest around the track, even though I had never run it before. So I don't know that I'd recommend it for somebody who has done nothing, but I mean, if you kind of have an idea, I think it's a great class to get into. They got a ton of cars now, and the competition is really good.
Yeah, but from what I've experienced with the dwarf car guys, they're all great people too. So
yeah,
that definitely helps out a lot. I know
made,
you guys are pretty tight with them still.
Yeah, we made a lot of friends in that class. We sort of started at the same time, myself and Brad Scaife.
Yeah.
And we ended up pitting beside each other every race. Sort of unofficial teammates, I guess.
Yeah.
And his crew guys would help us out. We'd help him out, and even with some setup stuff and bouncing ideas and stuff like that. And especially over the 2 years I ran, we both went from being rookies to sort of top of the class. So it's great, and his family and crew guys, Mike and Lee Ratton and Mike's son Brady, they're pretty much helping me out now when they can. So it's good.
Yeah, I've known Skate for a long time. He coached James for like 9 years in hockey. And that guy's one of the most competitive people I've ever experienced.
Yeah,
so.
he puts it all out there.
Yeah.
I not to throw him under the bus, but I think I've seen him throw a chair or two when stuff doesn't go wrong in the main
I've
event.
Seen him throw a lot of shit.
It's pretty entertaining.
So maybe talk about getting into the non-wing sprint car and how that kind of came about last year and some of the challenges of trying to figure one of those things out.
Yeah, it was definitely an eye opener. Just because we did, with the dwarf, we were so successful right away. I think the first race out, we finished second in the main event or something like that, and won a bunch of mains. And I can't even count how many times we set fast time in the dwarf. And I sort of thought the non-wing car would, that success would transfer over. It did not. But they are an animal to drive. It's, I've talked to some guys that say driving a wing car is actually easier than driving a non-wing car. But it's a huge learning curve. It was fun, don't get me wrong. I had a great time trying to figure it out, but everything happens a lot faster. You touch a tire, you're going for a ride.
Yeah.
It's not forgiving on the car or the equipment or your body. It's pretty primitive.
The bills can add up if you're jumping tires.
Yeah. We found that out pretty quick. Friday night of the Strawberry Cup.
Tippy?
Yeah.
One of the slowest rolls I think I've ever seen.
You and James have the records for the slowest roll in history.
Actually, I'm kind of noticing a theme with all the guests on the show
what the-
here.
Yeah,
I think what
flipping
five
every second guest I think
5 out of 8 guests have rolled a car at
I
Western.
think that if you do it long enough, you're gonna jump a tire and tip over.
It was
It's a fact.
we were going into, I think it was a heat race. We were going into turn 3, caught a tire, and of course you're looking sky high, and before you know it, you're riding the wall, and like you said, Cole, just it was slow, but I don't know if anybody's ever been to the P&E or Playland on the old wooden roller coaster there. It's like that, but worse. And then
a lot of dollar signs going by.
Yeah. I think that one was about a $3,000 wreck, but
Not fun.
Luckily, that car we got at Idaho had a lot of spare parts, so
Yeah.
But it was good. That racing family thing everybody talks about. I think after that, Mike Haslam had my whole front end apart before I was even out of the ambulance.
I remember that.
and everybody came around and offered up parts, and we had most of the stuff, but we actually got the car back together for the main event and went out, but it knocked the distributor loose, so it wouldn't run right. So just did one lap and pulled in.
So one question I always ask everyone is, where have you run, and what's your favorite track?
I've only really run at 3 tracks. I mean, driving wise, I haven't been doing this. Is only my 4th year.
Yeah.
But Western is still my favorite. Penticton, we took the dwarf car up there. That was fun. It's a fun track. If anybody knows me, they know I do not like going to Saratoga.
Yeah, I was about to say Saratoga high up on the list?
No, that is my least favorite. I would pick a track I've never run at besides going there, but it's challenging. There's guys that have it down pat, but for whatever reason, I just can't figure that place out.
Yeah, I've only been there once, and going from Western, the only track that I've ever run prior to going up there, and then you're like, what the fuck is this dog leg thing?
There's like, and turn 1 and 2 is got a bit of a banking to it, and then there's a dog leg that's actually got like an off banking.
Yeah, you're going
downhill, and then wall. 3 and 4 or 4 and 5, whatever you want to call it, is flat, but usually it's covered in gravel or something, and it's I don't know, it can be fun. I did have some fun races in the dwarf there, but for the light cars, it's a bit of a small track. There's not a whole lot of room to pass, but I'm a firm believer that if you can run competitively and win races at Western, you can win anywhere.
And it's proven fact too.
Yeah.
I think I was just gonna say the same thing. As there's so many people have said that too. It's just like, if you can be like good at Western, you can win anywhere, because it's got so many. You're going uphill, and then you're going downhill, and it's flat, but it's not. But it's so weird.
It's unique. Like it is a flat track, but there's the grooves that'll pull you out of 2. You can drive it deep into 3, but you gotta try to get as close to that grade as you can without hitting it.
Yeah.
And it's unique.
Then you got the where they pave the backstretch. It ends there. There's a little bit of a bump there.
Yeah, I noticed that bump's getting a little worse too.
Yeah, and it kind of upsets the car. So
yeah,
it's definitely.
And the competition too. Like, I've talked to people from out of town that hadn't been to Western before, and the quality of the cars and the drivers and it's pretty unique. It's good. I mean, it's our home track here, and
that's one thing you don't see very much at Western is just guys bringing out just like jalopy, like pieces of shit. Everything, everyone's car, every class they're all pretty they're
well
all pretty,
presented. Yeah.
Yeah, it's especially with the sprint cars, you see different classes from Idaho, Florida, wherever the hotbeds are, especially for pavement racing, and hands down, we got the best looking, best quality cars.
For sure.
Probably in North America. It's pretty impressive.
Yeah. So you get the itch to go winged racing?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Both sprint cars I've owned now have had wings. I'm just waiting for somebody to knock on my door and drop off a 360.
Yeah.
But
I think that everyone's waiting for
Yeah,
that.
a few people are waiting for that.
yeah,
Add your name to the list.
yeah, I'm way down that list. But no, I definitely. I mean, that will happen. Not sure when, but at some point I will drive a wing car. That's sort of always been the goal.
I think that for small short track, we talked to Daryl about this. That's kind of the pinnacle of short track racing.
Yeah,
you get wing sprint car, especially on the pavement. You're not going any higher than those guys. So
yeah, for sure. It's and it depends. I mean, your late model or super late model is sort of that's the stock car guys, and then there's you get your wing sprint cars, which Western would be. It's a great track for them. There's some races down in the States like Kern County and even the big track at Monroe that I would never drive. That's just way too fast.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
When you start seeing wings folding up just from the speed, it's that's not for me. I like the short track.
Yeah.
So another question I ask everyone is what's your favorite memory from the track? Maybe not a win, but something that sticks in your head.
There's a few. Not all of them involve driving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those are probably the best ones.
Yeah. Yeah. Some of them we can't talk about, but it's just being there, and especially after doing racing and stuff like that. When you get there, you go through practice, and the night just seems to fly by.
Yeah.
When you can go and just watch, it's almost relaxing. You're still just as excited. But I remember when I was helping Chris root, the race after he wrecked his car was the Strawberry Cup. So we went, and I said, "Well, hey, do you want to go out and?" I know you're not racing, but do you want to go and watch or whatever? And he said, yeah, sure. So we went out, and it was it was June. It's Strawberry Cup. For whatever reason, it was absolutely freezing that night. And,
yeah, I was there for that one. It was a cold night.
Yeah. And he works for Scotty Plastics. It's his uncle's company, and they do a lot of sponsorship with the track. So he said, forget this. Let's go up to the VIP booth at Western. I said, yeah, I'm all in. And apparently, when you're in the VIP booth, you don't have to pay for drinks.
No, you do not.
Nobody fucking told me.
Little known secret that I've kept to myself for a while here.
Well, it's out now. Yeah.
Secret's out now.
Yeah, sorry, Daryl, but so
But there's also a long waiting list for the VIP room.
Yes.
So don't. Yeah. There's about 20 seats in there.
You gotta know somebody. But so we went up there. One thing led to another, and we ended up calling Al Wade, which is Chris's father-in-law, because we needed a ride home. And so yeah, that was a good night. And then a couple years ago, when wilroc first went down to Wenatchee, myself and Cody Struck and Dave Wright, a couple of the dwarf car guys, we went down there just to sort of see what it was all about. Because I knew next year I was going to be running wilroc, and that was a fun trip. I think anytime you can go on a road trip with any sort of sporting event, it usually turns into a good time. I remember playing minor hockey; it was always the same. Out of town tournaments and stuff like that were always fun. But we went down there, and the races were practice Friday, racing Saturday, and then Sunday afternoon. And we were going to leave, come back Sunday after the races, and that was the King of the Wing tour as well. They wrapped up the 3-race schedule at Wenatchee.
So what you're saying is you didn't get home till Monday?
Yeah, pretty much. But Jeff Montgomery ended up winning. He lost in a pretty good battle with Matt Hine and Evergreen the night before, and then Sunday he won the main at Wenatchee, and they were all staying at the same hotel as us. And we heard some good stories.
Yeah, I bet.
Jeff and all the Wades were there, and I think there was only maybe 2 extra trips to the liquor store that night, but
only 2.
That was good. And then another good one was we went to Penticton with the Dwarf cars. They have Invitational every year, which is part of that AMCA series. And so myself and Scaife's whole crew and my uncle, he had a Dwarf car as well, went up there, and we all did the hotel thing and everything. And it was it was a good trip. We ran really well for a track that I'd never seen before. I think we finished 4th in the main, 20 cars or something like that. And the second night was rained out, which, funny enough, led to some more trips to the liquor store. And it's
all fun and games.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that's. I think you got to do that. It's part of the, maybe part of the cliche or whatever stigma around racing. But I think it at the end of the night, you're so focused and so tense, and you want to win so bad, and then just unwinding. I think it's a must. Even if you're not drinking, maybe just going to talk to everyone. That's a huge part of racing. I
think it's the camaraderie, I guess. Like you could be battling with a guy at home all season long, and then you go on a road trip and you're helping each other out. If somebody needs a part or something like that, it becomes sort of one big team, especially when you're racing against guys that you've never heard of or never seen before. It's fun. I mean, there's nothing like it. It's
like when you get traded in hockey and now you're playing with the guy you hate.
Yeah,
happened to me a couple times. But yeah, Cole, you got anything?
So it might be a little probably self-explanatory. What are your goals for the 2018 season here? Next about 9 or so races coming up.
Just try to be more consistent. Actually, I mean, last year we were consistent, but I think we had like 7 8th place finishes or something like that. So I guess that's consistent. But we want to try to get to the top of the board. And starting with qualifying, I'm a huge fan of qualifying. I love it. I mean, there's nothing better than going out, being the only car out there, and trying to prove you're the fastest. And then, my biggest thing is trying to get through traffic. I got to work on that, and just try to finish as best we can, and it'd be nice to hopefully maybe pick up a main event win, and hopefully try to go for like top 5 in points.
Compete.
Yeah, be competitive. Be not just another car out there. Be the guy that people want to beat.
Yep.
That's a fair goal. Sounds good to me. So another question I always ask everyone is there anything you haven't driven that you'd like to get a chance to drive? Obviously the wing car, but is there anything else?
I'll pretty much drive anything.
Yeah. Every racer.
Yeah. I mean, to a point.
I remember my brother got Brian Woodsky bought someone's mini stock, and so he had 2 mini stocks, and James is like, well, I'll drive it. And he gets in it, and it's when he was driving the old timer. So I mean, the old timer's quick, but it's not the wilroc. And he's like, oh my god, like I had it floored the whole way around, and he's coming in like dead last. He's like, fuck this, like I'm not doing this anymore.
Yeah. So yeah, obviously a wing car. That's what I want to drive for sure. I still would like to try like a full size, like a stock car. they're so evenly matched that you're out there. You're pretty much
the
waiting.
best driver wins.
Yeah, the best driver or the best Dale Earnhardt style driver.
Yeah.
Or late model would be fun too. There's nothing that I would really say no to. We don't have them here, but cars that I've always loved are the tour style modifieds, like the Wayland modifieds in the States. Those things are wicked. Yeah. That would be fun.
I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah.
I think we had this conversation.
Yeah, I think we might have, yeah. But, those would be fun.
What, basically sprint car right rears all the way around or something like that?
Yeah, they're pretty close, and some of the tracks they run at are not very big. It's
no, Bowman Gray.
Yeah, Bowman Gray that'd be a cool place to go watch a race or a fight or whatever happens there.
It's probably guaranteed the fight. There's a fight that's going to happen somewhere at Bowman Gray.
So obviously your dad is a pretty experienced guy in racing. Is there anyone else that's taught you a lot about racing, or like just being around the track?
Or kind of, you looked up to when you were growing up as somebody that you enjoyed to root for? Or?
Yeah, my dad was obviously number one. He's my dad, so and he's a big part of how successful I've been. He's sort of the brains behind most of the car setup. I've learned quite a bit since we started, but it all stemmed from him. It's sort of tough because, like I said, I wasn't really at the track much. Growing up when I was younger, it was a lot of guys were from the States. Didn't really know them, didn't get to see them like you do at home. But in recent years, the guys that have sort of really helped me out are like Jeff Montgomery. He's been a help, and got to know him, became friends with him pretty good. Randy Price has helped us out a lot, especially with the sprint car. Got a lot of pointers and stuff from Ryan Orchard, Rob Scott with the dwarf car, and the sprint car too. Mike Haslam, he was good enough last year to actually come and take my car out and drive it and sort of help with some setup stuff and point me in the right direction and tell me that my brakes were terrible. And
that helps. I know James
when he can stop.
James did that with Jeff Bird, and Jeff actually let him take his car out, and James was like, wow, like my car's not set up very well.
Yeah.
So we got to make some changes.
It's a huge help because a lot of the times you never get that opportunity, and you might go out there, and I pretty much ran that car all season thinking that this is how it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
Until somebody else says, no, they're terrible.
Try this.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, it goes back to that race and family thing again, where there's, you see how tough the competition is, but just about every guy out there is willing to help you out.
Yeah. Mike's good. Michael Haslam's fucking awesome.
Mike's great, and he is one of the guys that would rather have 20 cars out there, all competitive for a win, and he would be happier to finish 20th if everybody was out there racing as hard as he is.
Yeah.
We ran. James had a steering box, his backup steering box, since Wenatchee last year. So he ran pretty much half the season with Mike's steering box. It's, he could have easily came and said, "Hey, I want my steering box back," but it's just the type of guy, and also the family that he grew up in too, is strictly racing.
Yep. So getting a little close on time here, and I know Brandon has a very long list of sponsors that he has to read off here. So we'll try and squeeze them all in here before the end. If you want to,
we're probably going to go over time on the sponsors.
Okay, all right.
But,
he's got the full list.
We got time.
I mean, we've been really fortunate, especially this year. We got a bunch of new sponsors on board that have been more than generous to help us out. But new this year we got Pat and Linda Monahan with Talcor Walls and Ceilings. They're the big sponsor this year, and they've been really encouraging and helped us out quite a bit. Randy Price, Millstone Heating and Sheet Metal. He's been good. He's on board for 3 years this year and one more. Hopefully longer.
Yeah.
Hopefully he he doesn't like driving his wing car.
Yeah, you can maybe park that one.
Yeah, and Dave Rogers, BC Hazmat Management. He originally started sponsoring my uncle's dwarf car, and I kind of inherited him as a sponsor. But he's been good. Tom Parisian, West Coast Roof Inspections. He's a friend of mine. He's sponsored us since the get-go and been very generous. Jeff Montgomery, Malahat Auto Wrecking and Metal Recycling is on board with us this year. Corey Gronestad, Scanza Construction, again, new sponsor this year. Ron Bassey, GenCam Transport. Gord Martman, he used to own G&E Equipment, but he's doing a condo development in Sydney, so he's helping us out. Seawind Condos. If you're looking for a new condo, go check it out.
Yeah.
There you go, Chris. There's your opportunity right there.
Yeah, you can move into the land of the retired in Sydney.
I spent all my money on the podcast equipment.
Oh, right. Yeah, we forgot. We have to make that back first.
What else we got? Alpine Insulation. The guys at Titan Boats, they help me out with any sort of fab work that I need. John at SHC Autographics, he's done an awesome job on the decals on this car and the last one. Just nothing but compliments every time I bring a car out, which is pretty nice. So. Steve Service, Claire Downey Service, and family friend Rob Everett. He's helped us out quite a bit over the years, and my brother-in-law Aaron Frobeen, who was originally supposed to share the ride but just turned into a really good sponsor. So
Those are the best.
yeah,
That
that's
helps
right.
out a lot.
Thanks, buddy.
So you got any social media or anything that you want to plug for the team?
Yeah, I try to keep it updated, but if you go to Facebook, you can check out FR2 Motorsports, or on Instagram, just Brandon French 74. It's a personal page, but it's mostly race stuff. Yeah, try to update it after every race or before, and keep it current.
Well, I'm going to say one thing, and you might want to thank the old lady, because if I don't say it, she's going to get mad at me. And
I think you might have ducked out on a softball or a baseball game here.
Yeah, softballs, she's probably cursing me right now. But, yeah, my wife Shauna, she wasn't too keen on the whole racing thing at first. And then once I started winning races, she was more into it. And then she was definitely not happy when I told her I got a sprint car. I think James sort of ruined that for me after that one weekend where he rolled it and caught on fire. And
Don't worry, they're safe. They're fine.
Yeah, totally.
she's
totally.
still alive.
Yeah, what could go wrong? But no, she's definitely come around. She's been a huge supporter, and she's coming in the pits more and more and asking questions, trying to learn about the car. And we even had her ride in the quad last weekend. Didn't go so great, but no, she's fully on board and enjoys it. And just like myself, she's made a ton of new friends out there, and hopefully we can continue on that road.
Awesome.
All right, Chris, it's our turn to plug our social media now. So do you want to?
Yeah, Miller Family Racing 71 on Facebook and Instagram. And then you can find us at Short Track Radio 1 on Facebook and Instagram as well. And then, cool.
All right. Yeah, I think that's it. All right. Thanks again,
Western
Brandon, for coming on. And Western Speedway. Yeah, the guys who employ me. Yeah, I should probably plug that. WesternSpeedway.net or .ca. I think both work. Both work if you look it up. Just Google it. It's fine. And head to their Facebook page for more information if you need to do that. And with that, another edition of Short Track Radio has been completed, and we'll post again whenever we feel like it.
Bye.